at Frederick Douglass's home in Anacostia with Larry Smith, one of the leading publishers of South Carolina in the United States. Isn't this, Mr. Smith, what do you think? This is Frederick Douglass's home.
Well, first of all, I'm blown away by the opportunity to be here, to be standing on property that Frederick Douglass owned. I mean, that within itself, because like most in any African American, I've always been a deep admirer. You know, he's somebody who you respect, you know, not just as a publisher, but as a man and his principles. You know, and then that's you know, and you look at what he saw.
Yeah, we can see
100 years ago.
Clear view of the White House, the Capitol. Here we can see the Capitol from here. And then his where he freed himself from slavery in Eastern Shore, Maryland, over there. Everything about his life was here.
And to have an African American own something like this,
yeah,
100 years ago,
yeah,
it is nothing short of amazing in itself.
And even what's even more amazing today, this was once the poorest neighborhood and is now becoming the #1 tech center in the world here in Anacostia, east of the river. And we look at that was once the murder capital of America, is now the biggest economic renaissance in the history of the U.S.
And unfortunately, that seems to be one of the best kept secrets in America. That a community that's historically black, that's a community that has direct ties to Frederick Douglass,
yeah,
is now one of the fastest growing tech communities in the world.
Yeah, but smart money is smart money. Dumb money never invests in these things, but smart money already has. We have Morgan, we have Grumman, the Defense Utility Group, Northern Grumman is over here. Microsoft and IBM will be opening up down the road next to Homeland Security, and then all these new companies and people there. So this is, once again, the industrial base of the intellectual capital of America.
And I hope that what you and I are talking about is a way to find a way for not just minority participation, but African American participation in this expansion and this growth. Because I think that's really important to moving this community forward. Like you said, it's one of the best kept secrets. You're talking about what is theoretically Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
50 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. Now you're looking at what basically would be something even bigger than that.
Bigger than that.
But that in itself speaks volumes to what we're capable of in this community. You got some of the best brain power in America here in this.
Of course.
I think that's really, really going to be great.
And of course, here you have Frederick Douglass, who sits on top of this, and he was one of the best brains, one of the best newspaper owners in the history of our thing.
Well, and not just that's the newspaper owner, but a person who understood the human condition and was concerned more or less about the human condition. I mean, as a publisher, I think one of the things we have to understand when we talk about newspaper ownership and what newspaper ownership was original, it was a way for people like me, even 100 years ago or more, it was a way for people like me to be culturally relevant and to make sure that we were moving our communities forward. Like when I started my newspaper 36 years ago, my whole goal in starting my newspaper was, how do I build a newspaper that becomes the communication voice of the community? Because regardless of what kind of revolution you're trying to change, what kind of revolution you're trying to build, regardless of what kind it is, you've got to have a voice. And it's like with the Black Panther Party. And it's like with any other organization, it's relevant. Even the Ku Klux Klan, if you look back, there's some newsletter, some piece that keeps them informed and keeps them involved. It may not be a positive example, but it's a reality. And the truth of the matter, it basically is that, you know, we're also standing in Washington, D.C. I'm a great fan of Gil Scott Heron. And Gil Scott Heron was the guy who came up with the term, the revolution would not be televised. And which has been kind of copied by mass media over a long period of time. But the truth of the matter is the revolution has been being televised for the last 200 years in African American newspapers. And the question is whether the majority of the community was reading it, and who was reading that television.
But it's not the tyranny of majority. Douglass used the newspapers to get abolition, to get Lincoln's support. He even forced Lincoln. No, yeah, but also put moral pressure over Lincoln to use African American troops in the Civil War to free the slaves, and that's what newspapers are.
You know, my biggest fear today is that somebody like a China, with Tokyo, or Japanese with Tokyo Rose, had access to the kind of media we have today.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what that kind of damage that would have done with somebody who could use it as a kind of a propaganda machine that she had at that particular point? Because you know, we're all people who rely out of either laziness or lack of time and energy and resources to get what information we need. We're all people who legitimately seek out information from other sources.
Yeah.
And we don't do a whole lot of digging. That's why we have such a confusion in our country right now, because basically what I say, you take me at face value.
Yeah.
Instead of looking it up for yourself. And so a lot of times, you know, I'm watching the impeachment hearings recently, and one of the things I get from the impeachment hearings is, look, here's the thing. A congressman or a senator will say something, and he'll absolutely know it's not true.
Yeah.
But he'll say it just to get it out there, to get the statement out there.
But the difference was we have our God-given right as the First Amendment, which is given to all Americans. Because if our rights are not for all, they're for no one. And whatever you hear on Facebook, whatever, but once we put it in black and white in a printed newspaper, that is the record. And that's why politicians salute the old newspaper writers and think of Facebook as a scam, as a way to give out the untruth.
Well, and I think that's the challenge is, how do you basically make sure that for a person like me who's working with a person like you, how do we say, look, here's the thing, how do I make sure that the information I'm getting without going into too much market research is legitimate, is honest, you know, because everybody has an agenda.
Yeah.
You know, so my agenda versus your agenda versus somebody else's agenda, and that becomes a challenge. You know.
Okay, and that's, you see, and this is the time that the First Amendment that Thomas Jefferson put in, that Lincoln and Frederick Douglass helped save with the Civil War, is now the most important than ever.